there's something very freeing to me about being observed through a historical lens. This is something, yet another thing that I've realized recently. Maybe more appropriately, that's really set in for me recently. To elaborate on what I mean, the grand essence of existence and time it's comforting to me to know that no matter what you did in your life, what moral choices you made, beneficial or detrimental, there will, provably so, always be someone out there in the world, at least one person, possibly someone you know or after you're dead will have known, or someone that is currently alive at the same time as you that you don't know and in your lifetime will have never known, or someone far off in the future from your life who, if hearing about your life story, the events that took place in it, will have some amount or complete compassion for you. They'll be empathic and sympathetic towards things you did, the reasons you did. And they will be able to look at you, people like you, and people completely opposite of you. Through the lens of being another part in the continuous adventure of humanity. Yes is a good way to put it. There will always be someone out there who tries to examine you as a person in a fair and balanced way, to the best of their abilities. It really has been a wild fucking ride for me. this last year. It really has. I've done so many things. I lose count. I really do lose count. Some I can't even recall because they happen so quickly until I am spontaneously reminded of it by something in the environment around me, or by rewatching my video content online. Side note, in my right hand, the hand that I predominantly use for writing, typing, editing, things of the sort. Well, center knuckle of my ring finger, well, it now rolls on itself. When I was working the farm job, started becoming clearly inflamed. So bad that I had to take a day off to let it heal. Should have taken multiple. I only took one. And that still hasn't dissipated. It was a lot worse. It was my entire, all the knuckles on my right hand before. So at least those pains have subsided, but that one might have actually damaged fluid disc in between. So that may be permanent. Or that is my fault. Well, choice-wise, it's entirely my fault. And the other half is my employer's. So thanks for that as well, Butcher. Too often, or not too often, for too long, I've underestimated myself. I've severely underestimated my capabilities. Capabilities of what? My capabilities as an intellectual, my capabilities of determination, my capabilities of compromising, and my capabilities of forgiveness. Not forgiveness of other people, no. If you know me by this point, I have a plethora of that, as far as I'm concerned. Plethora. More than, sadly, certain people have given me duly owed credit for. Forgiveness of myself. Overall. As per usual. Every time I think I know exactly what I'm gonna say when I put this stupid camera in front of my face, and press the record button, I lose it. I lose what I had concocted in my train of thought. At least in the way that I wanted to present it. But as dictated by my subconscious, that's not going to happen anyway. Done more with my life in a year, going further in 2 years, nearing 2 years since I left Toronto. More in 2 years than most of the world's populace can say that they've done in 50. I'm 20 years old. 20 years old. Only. really do mean that historical perspective. I really do. Though your actions matter on a human level, you will, ultimately, you'll be viewed through the lens of you'll be viewed through the lens of history, through anthropology. No matter what good you did, no matter what mistakes you made, no matter what horrors you did, you'll be viewed as a person at a point in time. And that's not a depressing fact. No. That's a genuine fact. That's a fantastic fact. And even for those who will dehumanize you, will have psychopathic spite towards who you were, what you did. You'll still just be viewed through that lens. On both sides of humanity, caring and disregarding. You'll be viewed for what you did, what you chose to do, who you were. I normally can, well, I think at least, that I have a relatively well-constructed way of segueing into a topic, how I present my train of thought in most of my content. I don't have any way of doing that for this time around. Your ideals are not futile, no matter what. Goals, your aspirations, your beliefs, your moral actions are not. They're not unattainable. And I don't want this to be some the fucking shit you see all over the internet, the overly cliched, you can do it, look where I started, look where I am now, look what I overcame. Motivational content that's littered throughout most of the internet currently. The online sociological phenomenon that's going on with that, where they list slightly dismissive of me. I'm sure it's valid in, no, it's obviously valid, but you know what I mean. Any of you out there with a frivolous bit of intelligence know what I mean. Any of you who are actually socially observant know what I mean. I don't want this video to be where I started, I did this, list something that most general people realistically do in some pseudo form on a daily basis, and then equate that to a grandiose philosophical point, valid point, but one, being oblivious to how their very actions really kind of undermined the idea they were trying to get across morally. And two, something that just everyone does. Almost everyone does. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, ontological inherence of intersectionality relates to that point, but is the most you took something problematic and minute and you threw it onto the pedestal of something really provably worthwhile. I'm not going to name names because there's too many people I could probably list. I can't really think of all the individuals I've seen on the internet do this right now. Matter who you are, traumas you've endured, what psychological illnesses you may have sustained, or how pleasurable and pleasant of a life you've had. Your ideological values are, in some form, doable. You can bring them into fruition. You know how? It really is the simplest thing that I have finally realized. Why I'm no longer in an existential crisis, no longer in a morality crisis. I'm continuing to travel, don't worry about that. mental clarity now. Never before. Because I exist. And you exist. Cam, what does that mean? Let me put it this way. You're told by so many factors in society, in your interpersonal life, that you can't change the world. You can't do anything. You can only sit still, sit in place, sit and stare at what you're given to look at in front of you. It's what you're fucking told. Told that you're one person in a sea of billions. And we've seen how violent revolution doesn't work. We've seen how methods of peaceful protest don't work. For the left, for the right, for the center, all round and about. Told that you can't make a difference. And this, for many, starts to become psychologically internalized, philopsychologically. People start believing that pessimism is true, and nothing will ever change, and all is futile. So let me eat my breakfast, sip my coffee, drag myself to work, sleep, wake up, sleep, wake up, sleep, wake up. They start to think that their self-worth is nothing. It's null and void. And they feel they can't do anything when they're surrounded by the oppression that they are, what they've been forced into to some degree or another. Unwilling, unconsentfully. But those specific words, what I'm getting at, I can't change the world. Do you believe you can change yourself? As most either pseudo-intelligent or completely unintelligent pessimists do, or cynics, or misanthropists. Many believe that you can only change on an interpersonal level. You can change within yourself, thus finding freedom in the complete solitude and loneliness of the fantasy land they live in their mind, a borderline delusion. Be alone. Humanity sucks. Well, let me ask you, have you changed yourself? For those who answered yes, I think that you, one, can change only yourself. Truly, which ultimately I agree with that. Or would say that they have, from maybe that realization alone, all previously stated. All that garbage. All right, then. And who's the world? Who's the world? What are you counting as this vague thing of the world? Humanity. Are you separating yourself from your own species? So you believe that you can change your ways. You can change yourself. You can make solace with yourself. But you can't change humanity, and you can't change the world. There's a surface level contradiction there. Not an in-depth one. There's a manufactured double standard. What makes up the world? What we refer to as the global world, humanity, humankind, human beings. What makes up human beings? People, collectively. What makes up the collective? Individuals. What makes up the individual? You. You do. You are a part of the human race, whether you fucking like it or not. And if you can change yourself, then you've changed the world. You're a part of the world. Now you may be thinking, oh, but it's just me. I mean, this is pretentious, Cam. You know what I mean. I mean, like on a grand scale, societally, I can't change tens of thousands of people's minds. I could try to, but some will listen, some won't. Most likely. So fucking what? What? By the logic I'm going with here, if you are now convinced and would agree that you are a part of the world, why do you need tens of thousands to follow in what you say, to be convinced of what you are trying to convey, to have changed the world? Why? Where's this? What's this vague, arbitrary number? Tens of millions. Still vague, still speaking in really vague. You're speaking in vague numerics. Oh, and if I've managed to convince you, that makes two of us who are convinced. Two of us. Two people. Oh, let's say there's a third person who watches this, or you bring into a conversation. I believe it, they believe it, they believe it. All three of us. All three. So let's say we're only in our whole lives. And I'm saying all of you watching this, let's do a little thought experiment here. Let's be a little more epistemological. Let's say all of us, the entire duration of our lives, for our moral ideals, what we try to express to other human beings, what we engage with communicatively in dialogue of any kind, any sort of debate, an argument, a fight, whatever it be. Say we are only, out of everyone we meet, looking back on our lives, we really were only to truly convince maybe 10 people. Only 10 people in our lives. Interpersonally or on a greater societal level who aren't immediately involved with you. You pick your choice. You're only really able to convince 10 people. Others will have dismissed you, disregarded you, thought you were idiotic, you were unintelligent, you had no valid points, or you're not even worth considering, or On the other hand, you'll have people who were performative, who put on a false persona, who didn't actually care, who pretended to flatter your intelligence, but they didn't care. So they don't count. You were only able to really get through in some meaningful manner to 10 people. And by this logic of you are the world, you've changed society. You've changed your communal settings. You've changed something. You've had an effect. From my theory of the ripple perspective, you are the cause and the effect. Existentially. You have put forth your ideas. You made a difference in those 10 people's lives. And now let's go a bit further. Those 10 people, let's say they were the 10 people who you really didn't get into much of a long discussion about your viewpoints with. In fact, gone to some discussion, but not near as much, say, to maybe lengthy debates with the performative morons or the people who just regarded you as a moron and left you in the wind after the conversation was done. You didn't get into near long 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour rants and debates with them. You maybe had a 15-minute, 20-minute conversation with the 10 people that truly gained something from what you said, what you did. And looking back on your life, you can come to realize and hopefully come to accept that those 10 individuals were the ones who did something with your knowledge, formed it to their own knowledge, experiences, from the sharing of your experience. And that they were the ones who were a part of the greater social settings around you. They were the so-called vague world. and going back to yourself. If you believe or understand that you are a part of the human race, and you have changed yourself on a surface level, and I'll do a video about the contradictions of life again, and the needlessly overcomplicated, useless philosophical debates about its very contrary nature that I've come to realize and accept. If you've changed yourself, then you have changed humanity. You've changed a part of how we function socially. And in that, you've done your part. You don't need to ultimately. It'd be fantastic if you did. And I still absolutely believe that large numbers of individuals collectively working together and realizing things similar to me and people like me. It's absolutely possible, considering the fact that I feel I can say the words people like me. Just had to take a second. Very good milk. Real milk. If you try to act upon what you believe, it's never futile. You know why? Because you're in existence. And with you being a part of humanity, having changed yourself, you've changed humanity. And on that, your ideologies are able to come to light. It doesn't matter how many people you are able to convince to abide by the same morality as you or try to. It doesn't matter if you convince no one ultimately in your entire life. You're not able to. You held those morals. You followed those ethics as best as you possibly could. You did so. You are a living, breathing being who can think. Who can critically think. You've just been so cognitively damaged that you've been unable to for probably a very long time. If you're convinced otherwise. As long as you try, it doesn't even matter if it comes into fruition. You tried to do it, you did it. It's not fucking futile. You did it. You did something in relation to it anyway. You, if proven so, abided by rightful morality. You abided by justifiable actions. You held firm as much as you could on what was right and what was wrong. And thus you changed the world. And those who say, oh, but it really did nothing, no one will have really seen it. It was insignificant. It was insignificant in the grand scope of society, yada, 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 fucking yada. Everything needs to be seen immediately, right then, there, right then, and now. It needs to be seen by tens of millions of people, by that one person. That one person. It has to be seen by that person or that group of people. It has to be seen by specifically them. And no one else on the other side of the globe can come to the same fucking conclusions in their own situations and settings. They apparently can't. It's impossible. It needs to be seen by the world, so-called the world that apparently doesn't involve you somehow, the way that you're speaking from your world perspective. The vague world has to see you do it. Has to see you do it. They can't each individually see someone fucking else do it, the same thing you tried to do. Because they need proof that other people do the same thing, even though you could find another fucking person right nearby who's trying to do the same freaking thing. Nobody looks. No one. Well, that's unnecessarily hypocritical of me. Kind of counteracted what I'm trying to say. Wrong wording. People look. There are those who do look. Most idiots in this world don't. Again, that's another thing. You know what I mean. You know what I fucking mean. So many of you, I've heard people call me pretentious. You know what I fucking mean. So what of the contradictions in human articulation? It's innate. You can't do fucking shit about it. You might as well stop talking or expressing anything then, if that's your fucking point. Most of you know what I fucking mean. You can deduce it for yourself what I'm trying to fucking say. And you'll then spin your words in the manipulation tactic of doublespeak to just fuck it up. those who are manipulators, right-wing manipulators. You'll do it on purpose, maliciously, to convolute it, to distort the conversation. That's what you do best. Those who say that, no, I'm going to now relate it to my lifestyle right now, what I've done. I have been criticized morally on the fact that when danger approaches, I so-called don't take the necessary action. Don't proclaim my allegiance to a extremist ideology to prove my sincerity. That's all that, as far as I'm concerned, the far left is. I've said it before. Why it's so it angers me so is that's my side of the fucking spectrum. That's my side too, damn it. That is the epitome of what reactionary politics is. On all sides, but I am picking on the left wing here. I will. And I won't stop doing that. I will not stop doing that. As long as extremist measures exist, I'm not going to give the far right more of a hard time than the far left or the extremist center. I'm not giving them any more, any less of a hard time. I'm holding you to equal standards of morality, which is inherently leftist. to act upon what you believe, it's not futile. No matter how minor of the action is, or how minor of an action it is, or it may seem on a grand level, still an action. For me, people have accused me of not taking the necessary steps to solve an issue. When it would have so-called been justifiable. No, it wasn't. It was provably deplorable. Oh, call the police for this. Oh, go report this person to this governmental division for this. Go report this person to this regulatory system for whatever else. When you're running low on finances, go get a job at the very least, a moderate corporation, a moderate corporate branch. If you have nothing else, go to a mega corporation, go to a mega corporate branch. They're always hiring. No. You know why? It's not justifiable. It is not, I have no other choice. I have other options. And even if I don't, that's what I'm staying with. Till I am down to $0, till I'm arrested, till I'm killed, till I die as a consequence of that, of all that. What people see as supposedly inaction is action. It is. People think some grand, bloody display somehow equates to actual effective fucking method. Dead wrong. Dead wrong. My supposed inaction has been morally justifiable. In most cases, when it truly mattered. When I was truly pushed to my limit and put under strain, it mattered. People say it wasn't a grand enough fucking display. I did do something. Not that I didn't get involved I said enough. I'm done. Do whatever the heck you're going to do, you idiots. I'm not having any more direct involvement with your operations. Let's relate this specifically to, first, employers I've had, as, if you follow me, you know the recent incident. I have slapped myself continuously, metaphysically, figuratively, for thinking that I should have done more, I could have done more, I should have said more to those idiots. Ludger Talbot of Fermat de Five Rang, Kevin Arrington of Arrington Property Maintenance, Mason Ma of Mandarin Chinese Buffet Corporation. Oops, did I say those names out loud? Oh well. Fuck confidentiality. Fuck it. I did do something. Think that I didn't express myself well enough. I should have not put up with the nonsense for as long as I did working for them. All three of those jobs, I didn't hold them for more than 2 months. Landscaping company, Arrington Property Maintenance, and Crow's Landing I held for 2 fucking weeks. 2 fucking weeks, and then I said, fuck this, enough. You people are insecure, egotistical, transphobic, sexist, bigoted morons. Enough. I'm done. I'm out. Goodbye. And I told them what my problem was with them. I said it to them. It doesn't matter if they cut me off. Okay, before I get on that tangent, let's go again. The brief time, the month and a half that I worked for the moderate corporation as a current, until they become largely expansionized, maybe at whatever point in the future of Mandarin, Canadian Chinese Cultural Buffet Corporation. Worked for them in Ottawa for 1.5. Worked for a month and a half. With the histrionic, dismissive, egotistical manager who tell you to do this, then do that at the same time, and juggle them all at once. And when they get fucked up because you can't do that fucking thing at the same time as that other fucking thing, then how the fuck could you have done that? What do you mean, how the fuck could I have done that? You told me to fucking do that, you fucking idiot. One month. And I said, enough. Enough. I'm not wasting time on this. And I went back
That recording of Mason, my manager at Mandarin, when I was working there in Ottawa, if you scroll back through my YouTube video content, that covert recording was of him. That wasn't on the day I quit. No, that was about 3 or 4 days after I had initially quit. When my shift was almost done, walked into the back and took off the stupid branded uniform, the marking of enslavement, took it off, handed it back to Mason and said, yeah, I quit. I'm done. And of course, stand there, all composed. Oh yes, I understand. I understand. Oh yes, I understand. And I walked out, and I came back 4 fucking days later and confronted him. I came back, I asked to speak to him, and he actually said in the recording, yes, I didn't ask you, why did you quit? Was it because of me? Because of you and the authoritarian corporation that you work for. And you have a hand in. Let you top it. Middle-class farmer and landlord with a pseudo-feudalist, nobility-esque status to his family name of a small municipality in the middle of Canadian Appalachia. Worked for him for 2 months and said enough. And my encounter with him was, despite the chaos of it all, what amount of would have been chaotic, I guess, for me. That was the most fulfilling day of my life. No, you know what it really was. You know why? Because in all that, all my employers were of similar personality traits. But especially with him, I did hold true to my morality. I told a prominent landlord figure, a corrupt, uniquely corrupt, very unique presentation of oppression societally in St. Paul de Montmonet's municipal structuring. A man who was the equivalent of a working class elite financially. I told him to essentially fuck off. I stood in the face of real corruption, and I said, stop. I said, you are pathetic. In essence, in everything I said in that conversation with him, when he kicked me out of his car, wrangled me by the collar, pushed me back. In the essence of what I was trying to convey is I said, you are a pathetic excuse of a person. Trying to be as empathic as possible. Needing to be as empathic as possible. As I was not going to assault him back. I didn't assault him back. I didn't even, you can't see it in the footage from the last video. The last long video, as I uploaded a short before this. Here on YouTube, that is. You can't see it, it just being audio. He grabbed my collar. I didn't raise my friggin' fists. I didn't even raise my hands to grab at my collar, no. Went like this. My arms were at my sides. And he, like that, 2 times. They were as limp as a rag doll. Not because I was consciously scared. Not consciously, I was not afraid. Extensively, at the very least, from what I can recall. I wasn't, well, I said it in the video I made on YouTube. I am not afraid of a person like him. And I wasn't afraid in that moment of an idiot like him. I'm not afraid of your little fucking temper tantrum. When me and my sibling were younger, my sibling, non-benevolently, non-maliciously, injured me, hurt me, far worse than someone like him ever did. Far worse. Just from play fighting. Far worse. Far worse. I was not afraid. Or more specifically, if anything else, I was not afraid of him. Or what he could do to me. What he was going to do was what he was going to do. The reason I recorded that, actually, to further elaborate, I was half expecting something like that to happen. Here's me diminishing my psychoanalytic skills. I can read you like a fucking book. I know what kind of person someone like Mr. Talbot is. And I half expected, I try not to consciously expect anything. Subconsciously, you can't help that. But I half expected something like that to happen. I even said in the footage that I made the night before in the apartment that I have a feeling I'm not going to have this apartment the next day. That judgment was not based off of any prior interaction or prior wording that Talbot had incited with me. No, that was just my prediction. Because of the kind of person he is. Someone like him. I had a feeling that that would happen. That if I kept talking and sharing my true, as far as I'm concerned, rightfully assessed feelings, something like what happened would happen. Just like everyone else, I'm afraid to die. Not consciously, not anymore. Subconsciously, it's a protection mechanism. But I was not afraid of easily weak him. No matter how shrivel or quiet my voice was or is, whenever I try to engage in a debate with someone who is testing the limits of my very, very, very renowned and long patience. And people in my life can attest to that. My long and very tolerable patience. Here's my very clear imposter syndrome. I never feel like, for the longest time, I never truly felt like I would get my point across. Because so many manipulative people just disregard it. Or even for people who I am able to cognitively reach somewhat, it's not to any really hasn't been any high, for the most part, intellectual level overall, except for a handful of people in my life. V, A, B, pseudonyms for them. And my fantastic doctors I've been fortunate to have in my past, and my former psychologist who I'm still in contact with. Them too. The reality is, express myself well. I made my mark. I may not know it right now because I don't. So I call a few people. Or, well, I'll never fully know. I'm not there anymore. I made my mark on that village. I made my mark on the Talbot family. There need to be some grand quarrel, some grand majorly collective unionized revolution. It didn't need to be. I stood in the face of that bastard who I need to reiterate I have empathy and care for. I feel so sorry that you are the person you are. I know how you turned out that way, looking over your family history. Stood in their face and said, "You're a jerk. You're degrading. You're disrespectful. And for amounts of so-called wanting to help, half-heartedly it seems, Mr. Talbot has informed me of since leaving. Well, you have a really dumb way of doing that. You have a really dumb way of doing that. You don't know how to help people, Lutcher. You don't know how to help people. You don't know what help looks like. Because you're not highly compassionate. Giving me a shambled apartment with faulty wiring, an entire room that in the freezing cold of winter had zero heating, which took up half of said apartment space, without clearly any attempts to really actually fix it. There were no attempts made to fix that. No attempts. Same with my neighbors at the time. Any amount of their damages, minimal. I aided you in fixing patching a broken window that I'm sure will be unattended to, at least as of filming this, is still unattended to. I stood up and said no, and I shouted in the middle of that village at the top of my lungs, and it echoed. You could hear it echo off of the base of the nearby mountain range. It's in a low-level valley. Well, going into a valley, a hilly valley, from a mountain. I screamed publicly how corrupt you are, how corrupt that family is, the corrupt underbelly of that so-called, seemingly peaceful little village. The seedy underbelly of it. I screamed it. And anyone who was awake definitely heard it, even if they don't understand English. They don't speak it. Phone died. Next day. While I wrap this up, you're gonna make breakfast with me. Jersey cow yogurt. Walnuts. Pumpkin seeds. Dark chocolate chips. Fijian ginger syrup. Peanut butter, natural honey, and why not get the oats? Instead of them anyway. We're using all the ingredients that I bought for the cupboards here. To continue on with our discussion of last night. I have held true to my morality more than I have given myself credit for. Far more. And for what I mentioned earlier in the video about my voice, it doesn't matter how quiet I was, it doesn't matter how shrivel it may have sounded to others. It doesn't matter, and to me, how shrivel it may have sounded to me. It doesn't matter how... It doesn't matter how little I actually said. The number of words spoken in total. It doesn't matter how many times some belligerent aggressor cut me off. Verbally. Doesn't matter. The fact is, I still spoke up. I still said something. I still did something. And people want to say that talk is cheap and that talking isn't a fucking action. Yes, it bloody well is. It's one of the only actions that people actually utilize in this world on a large scale. The so-called... The picket sign peaceful protests and the violent riots people see in the mass media, that is, well, as for anyone of true leftist discourse knows, the mass media, corporate capitalist journalism portrays these events as being more non-localized than they actually are. They stir up talking nearly emptied the whole thing, so why not? They stir up mass pandemonium. That's what they're meant to do. That's their goal. In reality, for those who are able to see reality, that's not how most people communicate. Despite the fact that, sadly, oppressive ideals and such that often come about through those methods of protest, they echo into the people who are non-utilizers of those methods. A lot more set and thickened than before. Talking in a verbal discourse, whether being kept calm enough or in violent aggression,
doesn't matter how
ineffective it may have seemed because of how quiet I was. Clearly that silence disturbs people with very highly egotistical qualities and narcissistic qualities. Clearly it disturbs them. As I've actually said in the past online. Why is he so calm? Why is he not saying anything? Why is he not doing something? Why is he not getting involved? Why doesn't he talk? Because I don't need to draw air into my mouth and draw dull words into my brain 24/7. Why did I put the spoon back over there? I still did it. Any day now. Merci beaucoup. My few words. Deplorably. My few words were actions. And they clearly had an impact. Some way or another. But the even sadder part is, for me, right now, no matter how many times, or in the past at least, no matter how many times I would not break, try to not break more than I had to. Never stuck. It's very clear to me now that I do have self-esteem issues. I know exactly where I got that from, who I got that from.
Because no matter what I've done in my life, for the longest time, obviously not when I was a child, no one had these problems when they were children. No one. Any genuine praise I've received for any work that I've ever done for a long time from other people, it's never stuck. Never. Finished product. Maybe that'd be a better angle of it. Never truly stuck with me. Oh shit, for nothing else. matter what I seem to do, there's always a looming sense of worthlessness. Much less than in the past. Far less. And the sad thing is, people have given me praise for my work, the things I've done, sincerely. My theories, my creative endeavors in writing or in video format. My photography. In efforts, another. Fields of work. Cooking. But it's never stopped. for those of you out there who may be thinking, well, admitting this, realizing it, somehow discredits everything I've done. Fuck you. You're an idiot. No, it doesn't. There's a phenomenon that goes on as well, psychosociologically, that I like to call the dehumanization of the intellectual. Intellectual people are held to such an unrealistic high standard amongst a society that they, quite literally, even if they're advocating for seeing human beings as flawed people, well, their own followers don't even seem to do that for them. They can't seem to. They can't seem to look at the people. Well, clearly they can't. People they idolize because they idolize them. So unhealthy. It's a form of dehumanization. I don't want to hear the ageist excuse of agreeing with me because I'm 20 years old. Oh yeah, of course they shouldn't hold him, for as intelligent as he is, to such a high standard. I'm speaking for whoever I seem to encounter. People I have encountered. Or other people in the same position. He's just a kid. No, it's not that I'm just a kid, I'm just someone. It'd be dehumanizing if you did it to an intelligent 5-year-old, intelligent 15-year-old, an intelligent 25-year-old, an intelligent 45-year-old, and an intelligent 75-year-old. It's not, and I'm being very clear with my words there, it's not just an unrealistic pedestal, it's dehumanizing. It's portraying that person as there is something more than they are. Beyond human. No. Not less than what they are. Fine. Wording.
dehuman... whatever. Unlike a large number of others with severe self-esteem issues, who consciously don't realize that they have them, or even an amount that do, I don't try. Morally, I will not do anything, and I don't do things solely to ease that encroaching sense of worthlessness. I don't do things just to appease it. Overall, at least. Not anymore, at least. But it hurts. Recently, I've spent many points in the days crying, or finally really letting it sink in, which is a good thing. For the longest time, I feel like I can see the world around me. What I mean is, I felt like I have the unique creative ability to peer into other people's livelihoods without even really knowing them. I can think of so many scenarios sociologically that are going on all at once. I can look out the window here, at the street of cars that are in front, that go past the front of this apartment flat. I can try to fantasize about their lives. I'm a writer. I make up stories at points, sometimes for fun, in my head, about people's lives. And I feel I can see them in a very realistic, truthful way. I envision what it may be like. In terms of my neuroscience work, I can look at various cultures of the world. I can look around me in my environment, and I can feel a sense of awe and horror at how I can see the building blocks of each little part in some form of how that came to be in that environment. And especially when I do further research into it, I end up being, most often it seems, fairly accurate. At least just as to what certain elements that went into the creation of that phenomenon was. Felt that way for so long. And I know there are a plethora of others who know what I'm talking about. Because they feel it too. And that's another reason that I've loved cityscapes so much. Despite the horrible atrocities. One, love the idea of a city. Not a city the size of, say, Tokyo and with the towering, problematically built skyscrapers. No. Or the bright, ocular damaging, overstimulating, neon digital lights and advertisements, manipulation, propaganda plastered everywhere. No. But because it's a colony of people. My ideal city would be a place, say, like, use places that I've been in Quebec so far. Like, size of St. Hyacinthe, Drummondville, Victoriaville, those three cities. That's a perfect example of what I think a possibly well-functioning, stable-sized settlement could be. Or Lachute.
but also because there's so much depth to the modern world. Ouais, bonjour, Fifi. There's so much depth in them, and in the places that most of the world doesn't look at, the forgotten places. The neighboring municipality to the grand tourist center, the place that nobody looks at, or the neighboring smaller country to the large, widely seen, heavily politically influential superpower right next to it. There's intrigue in them, and intrigue in how the corruption presents in them. As far as I'm concerned, most often actually for the larger global powers, powerful nations, or for those smaller nations within their national regimes of terror. A lot of the abhorrent enforcement of overruling power resides in those unseen places. Yes, that's why they're usually unseen, considered unseen. Far away from the tourist centers, well, land-wise, not terribly far at all, right next door. But they're not honed in on by the tourist industry for obvious reasons. They don't want people catching on. I guess I should explain now where I am, actually. Well, long story short, after my ending excursions in the village of St. Paul de Montmagny, I came back to the city of Leviz, which is where I am now. I went to an independently run homeless shelter in the Old Town area in the Desjardins district, and they were able to once again refer me to the independent shelter in the New Liverpool district on the opposite end of the city, the place that I was at before going to St. Paul de Montmagny to work on the farm job. But whilst on my way there, in the Hadlow district, I was stopped by a person, we'll refer to them as S, who saw me dragging Cardi B, a wagon, and asked, "Do you need help?" What was I doing? They were able to, from just the bits of information I gave, understand that I was homeless and that I was nomadic. And from our short conversation, they said, "Come over to my place. I live in an apartment flat." I'm paraphrasing the wording here. "I live in an apartment flat nearby. Come at the very least stay at my place for the night. No charge. No nothing." I happily agreed. And we have only known each other for about now. That date doesn't look right. For about 2.5 weeks. And in that short time, well, we now know a lot about each other. And I've had many very long and interesting conversations with this person. And right now, as of a week ago, they're on trip in Belize. They'll be gone for a month. And they charged me with taking care of their apartment. Free of rent fees. Free of any other unsavory favors. Just to take care of their apartment. And their cat. This is S's cat, Tiffy. Is her name. She's very affectionate. I don't know if you could tell. So this is where I've been for the past 2 weeks. And this is where I'll be for at least another month. But after that, S is leaving the place. They'll have to vacate. They're moving on from here. I'll talk more about my interactions with them in other videos. In a multitude of regards, they've been a very generous person, but they have some very heavy problems as well that we've discussed. Very heavy psychological problems that they're self-aware of. They actively have tried to mitigate. Which I'm proud of them for. I've been searching around for another small business job position all throughout the city. So far to no avail. There might be one prospect, and then again, there might not be. Who knows? Financially, I am down to $1,800 roughly in my bank accounts. So we'll see what comes of that. Just before I end the video, I'd like to mention I've recently received some text messages from, well, one was clearly from a viewer. There were at least 3 others that might have been from a viewer. It's from viewers. They were very vague and undescriptive. It's a little unclear. For those of you who are trying to message me from my contact information I put out on YouTube and Pornhub, for those of you who are not contacting me from within Canada, I'm not ignoring you. I see your messages, and I have been very grateful for them so far. Very grateful. But looking into the area codes from where the people have sent me the messages from, most of them have been from within the USA. I can't respond to those unless it was through a different messaging app, say WhatsApp, if anyone has it, as I do, and I use it, or unless it was just through email, which may be a better way to contact me from outside of the country, because I can't respond to those messages via text or call, or I will be charged internationally for the phone plan that I am currently on. So just to make anyone aware who tries to send me a text outside of Canada's territorial borders, I'm not ignoring them. I'm not responding to them, or I will be charged. So if you're trying to get a hold of me from outside of the country, email or WhatsApp, or I may still have Skype on my phone. I have to look. The end point of all of this, as long as you're alive, as long as you're trying to abide by what you know is morally right, or what you feel is morally right. Now, to address, sadly, that is a double-edged sword for corrupt individuals. People who think they're doing the right thing, when in reality, it's deplorable.
who you are, as long as you're alive, it's not futile. And you can achieve it in some form. Because you are you. You're a part of humanity. If you changed, then you changed the world. You changed what is put out into the societal surroundings that you're confined to. Because you changed. As far as I'm concerned, at the end of the day, that's more than enough. And I'll state it again. I will die leading the life that I am trying to. Whenever that comes is when that comes. Being an ethical situationalist, I will not budge more than I think I have to. And if I'm proven wrong on that, what choice I made, then I'll reflect, I'll regret it as I should, and I'll try not to repeat it. And at the end of the day, those in history who care will view me and those like me and everyone that they see through the eyes of a historical context. Which I'm happy about. It is an awkward position you put me in, Tiffy. Yeah. Yesterday. Hope you learned something.